The world is stunned. Chinese people raise the bar on public urination. Shanghai Auntie shocked. Money disappears from her bank account after 30 years. The illusion of prosperity crumbles. The fireworks at Guangzhou's Asian Games were fake. 2 meals for $1. Young Chinese people freak out over budgeting. Hello everyone, and welcome to Open China. It's not surprising anymore to see Chinese people urinating in public. In just 2 days, 2 incidents occurred, one in Nanjing, China, the other in Seoul, South Korea. Chinese people casually relieve themselves in public. Even more shockingly, the urination site in Nanjing has turned into a popular selfie spot. It's not hard to marvel at the absurdity. On November 11th, at a metro station in Nanjing, China, a man literally pulled down his pants and squatted, using this public space as a toilet. He did his business in under 30 seconds, then casually pulled up his pants and walked away without cleaning up. The security footage shocked many people. But the most absurd part is yet to come. After the story spread, this urination site actually attracted large crowds of young people who came to imitate the act and take photos. They squatted in the same corner, pretending to urinate, even snapping photos and laughing as if it were some kind of trendy entertainment spot, rather than a public health disaster. After the news spread, netizens sarcastically commented, "Only Chinese people can outdo other Chinese people." Some netizens joked, "This guy's aura is so strong. Is he a leader?" While others exclaimed, "This became a selfie hotspot? My goodness!" Some were even more focused on the details. What's most shocking is that he didn't even wipe. The absurdity of it all left foreign netizens stunned. Despite all the mockery online, people were still lining up to imitate the act on site, with no sense of shame, thinking it was funny. Not only are people shamelessly relieving themselves in public in China, but also overseas. Outside the Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul, a middle-aged man squatted in the bushes, holding toilet paper in his hand. A woman in white pants was also squatting nearby, and when she stood up, there were noticeable stains on the back of her pants. A passerby caught this on camera and expressed confusion, saying there were so many tourists around the palace, and public restrooms were nearby. Hard to understand why anyone would choose in a cultural heritage area. The person who filmed the incident also mentioned that dozens of tourists were visiting Gyeongbokgung Palace at the time, including many from Chinese tour groups. The 2 individuals were suspected to be members of one such group. When police on patrol noticed the situation, they immediately stepped in to stop them. Gyeongbokgung Palace is a designated historic site in South Korea. Under local law, violating public decency by urinating at cultural heritage sites could result in charges under the Minor Offenses Act. Reports state that the Chinese man was 50,000 Korean won, about $35 US, while the woman was not included in the police's list of offenders. The video quickly spread on South Korean social media, sparking widespread outrage. Many expressed their anger. "There's a public restroom right nearby. How could this happen?" This isn't the first time we've heard about Chinese tourists doing this. We can't keep tolerating Chinese tourists like this. Kick them out and ban them from ever stepping foot in Korea again. Many netizens were baffled, asking why Chinese people such unbelievable incidents. Some commentators pointed out that in the Chinese Communist Party's long-standing indoctrination of party culture, there's a lack of true moral values, with an emphasis on obedience, compliance, and politics instead of universal ethics. The result is generations being taught to comply with authority, but disregarding the importance of public spaces, other people's rights, and social norms. Shanghai Auntie shocked. Money deposited 30 years ago vanishes. If social norms and morals are intangible concepts that some in China might dismiss, this story is quite different. In 1997, Ms. Gu, a resident of Shanghai, deposited her hard-earned money in the bank, but when she went to withdraw it in 2025, she was told by the bank that her deposit had disappeared. The issue began in June of this year. Ms. Gu brought in her 2 6,000 yuan certificates for a 3-year housing savings deposit from 1997 to the Bank of China's Huangpu branch, ready to take out her money. But the teller informed her that the system couldn't locate the deposit. The staff told her, "It's been too long. We need to check the back-end system." Ms. Gu understood and agreed to wait for further notification since the certificates were nearly 30 years old. However, the wait dragged on for 3 months. During that time, the bank never contacted her. When she called them, the response was the same. "We're still checking. We can't find it in the system, and the investigation isn't complete." It wasn't until Ms. Gu decided to escalate the issue through the complaints process that the phone calls started coming in every day. The search locations kept expanding. Fengxian, Xiamen, Fujian. It seemed as if the bank had checked everywhere except outer space. But the conclusion was always the same. We're still checking, but we haven't found anything. As time passed, Ms. Gu became more and more anxious. She still hadn't gotten any answers, and instead, the bank came up with an even more baffling explanation. The problem, they said, might be due to a Chinese character in her name. They explained that the system back then didn't support that character, so it was replaced by a similar one, and when the stamp was added, that's when the error might have occurred. But Ms. Gu quickly pointed out the inconsistency. In the same year, she had encountered the same issue with other deposit certificates from the same bank, including a 2004 certificate, and all of them had been successfully cashed. One of her 10,000 yuan deposits even earned 8,000 yuan in interest. Given that the same character, same bank, and same technical limitations didn't affect those transactions, why did these two certificates encounter problems? Ms. Gu called the Bank of China's Huangpu branch again, and this time the response was even more outrageous. The bank said they had set up a special task force led by the Consumer Protection Department, with members from various departments, including the Channel Department, Personal Banking, Finance and Accounting, and Financial Technology. Despite involving so many departments, they still couldn't find any solution. The bank explained that the system had a problem. The bank systems had gone through multiple upgrades and transitions before and after 1997. They had no way of tracing where the data migration had gone wrong. The person in charge said, "Her case is more complicated, but the system just can't find the data. We've tried all variations of that Chinese character, but nothing works." When asked by reporters, the bank further clarified that they couldn't process the payment until they found the root cause. The term non-operating expenses was used to describe the losses the bank would have to bear. In other words, until they figured out where the error occurred, even if the deposit slip was genuine and Ms. Gu had done nothing wrong, the bank couldn't pay her. However, the law stance is completely different from the bank's. According to a lawyer, under the commercial bank law and relevant judicial interpretations from the Supreme Court, the bank must pay upon presentation of a valid deposit slip. As long as the depositor provides a legitimate slip, the bank is obligated to pay. If the bank believes that a deposit slip is invalid, it must provide proof. If the bank cannot prove the slip is invalid, they have no right to refuse payment. The lawyer said, "The bank's inability to find the original slip is their problem, not Ms. Gu's. She has a right to immediately receive her principal and interest with no reason for further delay." But the bank couldn't care less about the law. They just kept using the classic excuse of delaying. A mainland Chinese reporter reflected the case to Bank of China's Shanghai branch. Their response was that they had assigned someone to retrieve the original documents, but due to the large workload, it would take time. So until today, Ms. Gu's money remains stuck at the bank. Some commentators pointed out, in communist China, banks are no longer guardians of people's wealth, but are financing tools for the regime. The relationship between depositors and banks has been distorted into one of obedience and deprivation. Ms. Gu's experience highlights two major issues. First, the control of finance by power, and the lack of a system to correct errors. Second, the intentional breakdown of information systems and responsibility chains, which makes it easy to evade accountability. Not being able to investigate is really not wanting to investigate. Commentators believe that the biggest black hole in China's financial system isn't bad debts, but a bankruptcy of trust. They say when deposits have become uncertain assets, this system has already lost its legitimacy on a financial level. In China, it's not just banks you can't trust. Now even the fireworks you see might be fake. The much-hyped national games, promoted with great fanfare by the Chinese Communist Party, were exposed when it was revealed that the fireworks at the opening ceremony were actually fake. On the evening of November 9th, during the opening ceremony of the national games, the CCP once again used AI-generated electronic fireworks instead of real ones. Almost all party media deliberately avoided mentioning this, focusing instead on describing the display as shocking, magnificent, and a visual feast. Many unsuspecting spectators had already taken their seats, eager to witness a dazzling fireworks show. Some brought their children, some traveled from other areas, and others eagerly announced on social media that they were about to film the Guangzhou National Games fireworks. But when the time came, the TV screen was filled with loud explosions, brilliant fireworks displays, while the actual night sky outside remained eerily silent. no sparks, no smoke. A Guangzhou resident captured the most ironic scene. Half of his phone's camera was pointed at the sky, while the other half faced the window. On the television, fireworks filled the sky, while outside, nothing was happening. This video quickly went viral, becoming a classic piece of satire mocking the CCP's fake displays. One netizen commented, "The TV was lively. Outside, it felt like a funeral." Others quipped, "That's not fireworks, that's fake flowers." What's even more infuriating is that the state media pretended major media outlets rushed to publish articles, claiming that the fireworks lit up the Guangzhou night sky and that the scene was breathtaking. Not once did they mention that these fireworks were AI-generated, existing only on TV screens. Many viewers only realized that they'd been duped after watching side-by-side comparison videos posted by other netizens. Some commented angrily, "This is even worse than fake GDP. How can they call this an opening ceremony?" And this isn't the first time such deception has happened. Last year, during the Hangzhou Asian Games, the authorities also promised a spectacular fireworks show, but in reality, the only fireworks were the ones on TV. Many Hangzhou residents waited for half an hour before realizing that they'd had been tricked, cursing the officials for being too cheap to even set off real fireworks. Many believe that the CCP's decision to skip real fireworks is directly linked to the local financial crisis. In recent years, local governments have been drowning in debt, and many provinces and cities are already running out of money. Guangdong and Zhejiang, once seen as economic powerhouses, are now showing signs of financial strain. Evident in official cuts to civil servant salaries and the suspension of infrastructure projects. Fireworks shows, which can cost hundreds of thousands or even millions, are now seen as a luxury the local governments simply can't afford. But the problem isn't just about money. It's that the CCP still wants to maintain the illusion of a great era. No money for fireworks? No problem. Just use AI, special effects, and virtual images. After all, they'll deceive as many people as possible. As long as the visuals look stunning, the shots are beautiful, and the propaganda sounds grand, who cares what the actual experience is like? Who cares about the people's feelings? That doesn't matter at all. One netizen sarcastically remarked, "The CCP has even started photoshopping the sky." Another said, "When the people are watching fake fireworks, we know the truth in this era is becoming rarer and rarer." As local governments in China face financial crises, the people's wallets are feeling just as empty. According to the BBC, in a small rental room in Beijing, 24-year-old Zhang Xiaomili is washing her face with a regular bar of soap. She's not destitute, she's just extremely frugal. This has become her lifestyle and a way to protect herself. On the social media platform Xiaohongshu, she shares with her 97,000 followers how she maintains her life on a tight budget, choosing cost-effective clothes over expensive brands, and making simple meals instead of ordering out. Zhang Xiaomili says she wants her followers to learn how to avoid consumption traps and reduce financial stress, instead of spending blindly. For many young people, this way of life has become the norm. Another 29-year-old content creator has taken saving to the extreme. He spends just a little over $1 a day on ingredients to make 2 simple meals. He admits that he comes from a rural area, has no connections or background, and can only make ends meet by being meticulous with his budget. When asked if he hoped his wife and child would live the same way, he simply fell silent. "I don't know." This sense of uncertainty about the future is something millions of young people in China share. The reason behind this lifestyle isn't that young people are embracing minimalism as a trend. It's because China's economy has severely declined, forcing people to cut back on spending. Youth unemployment has remained stubbornly close to 20%, and even when young people do find jobs, they face the dual pressures of wage cuts and unstable positions. The Chinese government has repeatedly tried to stimulate the economy by boosting consumption, but the results have been lackluster. Household consumption accounts for just 39% of GDP, far below the 60% level seen in most developed countries. For many young people, anxiety arises from the huge gap between reality and expectations. Oxford University economist George Magnus points out that many master's graduates are forced into jobs unrelated to their fields, such as delivery or retail, leading to severe skills mismatches. For those just entering society, the uncertainty about the future makes them more inclined to save rather than spend.